Good morning. It's Thursday, the 28th of January.
Also this morning, disappointment in Melbourne for Johanna Konta.
Yes, good morning. The British number one loses in the semi-finals of the Australian Open.
Great.
Preferably made into wine, surely? Does it still have the same effect?
I think that spoils it somehow.
Does it?
Yes.
No, it doesn't. You and I will believe that, Sally. I think that's a great
So there was a
theory.
moment this morning when everyone's hoping for
Yes.
an extraordinary thing, and as it was, that the tale was wonderful, but not quite the fairy tale ending.
Yeah, Johanna Konta has had an incredible run at the Australian Open. She's gone further than anybody, certainly people who hadn't heard of her before, she'd gone further than anybody had expected. But you're right, the dream is over. She was outplayed this morning, wasn't she, by a brilliant opponent. British number one has lost in the semi-finals of the Australian Open. Of course, the tennis match has only just finished, so the papers are all talking about the football last night. Let me just show you the back page of the Mirror. Oh, my goodness, here they're saying Aguero shows no mercy. Of course, Everton were bidding to play Liverpool in the Capital One Cup final. They're saying Sergio Aguero was the hero. A controversial night at the Etihad, though. I just want to show you one thing. It was a desperately nervous night at times for Everton fans, but I can show you someone here who obviously wasn't feeling the nerves at all. Someone we don't normally see at the Etihad. Can we find him? He's down here. There he is. Don't know if our camera can pick up on who that is. Oh, it's Sir Alex Ferguson. And here he is, obviously having a sneaky little yawn, and they have cheekily said in The Sun, it's not a first half at Manchester United, Fergie, because obviously they're suggesting that it might be quite boring to watch Manchester United.
That was all over Twitter as well, actually,
Yes.
and then they said he was more animated in the second
Yes,
half.
of course. He's allowed to yawn. Of course.
Yeah, everybody yawns sometimes.
Exactly. I want to show you this, though. In the Times, Charlie, you might need to help me here. This is a lovely piece about Johanna Konta, and it's talking about how, even though things might not have gone particularly well for her this morning, we all know her name now. And I was talking to someone from the LTA not that long ago about her who was saying she's going to be a big star in the future. Not everybody knows that much about her, but she has such huge potential. And even so far, OK, she lost this morning. She has, up until this point at the Australian Open, earned £380,000.
We're talking to Sue Barker later, aren't we, about her
Yes,
as
we
well?
are.
And she's been tracking her progress as well.
Yes.
So
Yeah, of course, she's known her for years,
Yeah.
since she was a teenager.
it'll be interesting to hear what she has to say, actually.
Yes.
So thanks very much.
you.
See you later on. The Australian Open this morning was about 45 minutes ago. It came to an end. A wonderful run, though.
Yeah, just before 6 o'clock our time, Johanna Konta, the British number one. OK, she's been beaten at the Australian Open, so that's the first thing we should say. But the advantage to this whole experience for her is this. We all know her name now, don't we? We're talking about her all the time, which is something that previously we hadn't been doing. She is the British number one. We don't know that much about her.
We don't. It's quite surprising because it's like her name's popped out, not out of nowhere. Obviously, she's been working for years about this, but we're going to talk to Sue Barker a little later as well because she's been tracking her career and been on top of what she's been doing for a long time.
I love what Sue's take on Johanna Konta is really, really good because Jo came to England when she was 14 because she was so good at tennis. Born in Australia, came to England at 14 to work on her tennis, and she obviously has very successfully done that. Lots of people are saying, well, are we claiming her as British? Is she really Australian? Sue Barker said, she's really good. Let's have her.
Yeah, don't argue.
Which I love. So, as I said, the British number one has lost in the semi-finals of the Australian Open. Manchester City are on their way to Wembley after beating Everton 3-1 in the Capital One Cup semi-final last night. World heavyweight champion Tyson Fury has been reminded of his responsibilities as a role model by the British Boxing Board of Control. It follows comments he made that were deemed to be sexist and homophobic. England rugby union coach Eddie Jones says Scotland will start as favourites when the two sides meet at Murrayfield in next weekend's Six Nations opener. The Women's Six Nations tournament runs at the same time, with their fixtures mirroring the men's. Ireland are the reigning champions in both the men's and the women's tournament. Before I go, I want to show you some lovely pictures of a paraglider this morning who has achieved a lifetime ambition of soaring beneath the Northern Lights. Wow.
That's
Yeah.
beautiful.
That's a man called Horacio Lorenz. Adventurers would go to places that hadn't been discovered, wouldn't they? And now all of that's been done. Adventurers now, what they do is they very cleverly capture beautiful images, don't they? It's always going to look good in a photograph or on the television. And obviously that's something he really wanted to do. Amazing thing to do.
My dream is just to see the Northern Lights. I've never seen them.
Oh.
Have you?
No.
Have you?
No.
Never. I'd just love to see them, but to be able to do that, that's amazing.
Apparently you take quite a risk, don't you? Because you're never guaranteed.
No.
You can go and make the journey and it doesn't always happen.
Oh, well, it will happen.
We're going to carry on talking about tennis now, because whatever happened, Johanna Konta, as people will know now, no longer in the Australian Open.
But we're talking about the next generation, I hope.
Absolutely.
That's the point, isn't it? That
Yes.
there will be somewhere a lot of people inspired by what she's already done.
Yes.
Good morning, it's Thursday, the 28th of January.
Also this morning, disappointment in Melbourne for Johanna Konta.
Yes, the British #1 loses in the semi-finals of the Australian Open.
And Carol has the weather for us.
It was a morning.
Do you know what I don't
4 times a
understand?
week.
I don't understand why the advice keeps changing. About 5 minutes ago, I'm sure I read in the paper that grapes were sugar bombs.
Oh, that's true.
I've
Full
heard
of sugar.
that before.
So are we having sugar now? Are we having grapes?
Turn them all to wine.
Yes,
Then they're just happy bombs.
wholeheartedly agree. Someone who deserves a nice cold glass of white wine this morning is Johanna Konta because, oh my goodness, she's had an amazing run at the Australian Open. OK, she's been beaten this morning by Angelique Kerber, but we all know her name. We're talking about her here on Breakfast and on the radio all over the place. And she is someone to watch for the future. The British #1, we know a lot more about her now. Morning, everyone. Well, she lost in the semi-finals of the Aussie Open overnight. Konta's bid to become Britain's first female Grand Slam finalist since 1977. Well, the German will meet Serena Williams in the final on Saturday after she beat Agnieszka Radwanska in straight sets. The world #1 is bidding for a 7th Australian Open title, and victory would equal Steffi Graf's record of 22 Grand Slam singles titles, a record in the Open era. Manchester City are on their way to Wembley after beating Everton 3-1 in the Capital One Cup semi-final last night. World heavyweight champion Tyson Fury has been reminded of his responsibilities as a role model by the British Boxing Board of Control. It follows comments he made that were deemed to be sexist and homophobic. England rugby union coach Eddie Jones says Scotland will start as favourites when the two sides meet at Murrayfield in next week's Six Nations opener. Well, the women's Six Nations tournament runs at the same time with their fixtures mirroring the men's. Ireland are the reigning champions in both the men's and the women's tournaments. Before I go, I just want to share with you this morning some amazing pictures of a paraglider in Norway who has achieved his lifetime ambition of flying underneath the Northern Lights. Horacio Lorenz was on standby for hours in -15 degrees and had to wear a wetsuit under his flying outfit in case he crash landed into the freezing water. But what he wanted to do, he says, was dance with the aurora. Something he said that he just simply couldn't turn down. You can see from looking at those pictures why he wanted to do that. Absolutely beautiful. That's all the sport for now.
Good morning, it's Thursday, the 28th of January.
Also this morning, disappointment in Melbourne for Johanna Konta.
Yes, the British #1 loses in the semi-finals.
Studio.
Oh! No.
Have I got it wrong?
No, it's
no,
fine.
I was
It's good.
messing with it,
No, you
okay?
have, but it's a joke.
I know.
Exactly.
Yes.
Not everybody is getting the joke. That's all I think it is, Charlie.
You do it better. Can you do it better?
No. Sue
Studio.
Well, that
Is
was
it?
better.
No, I think we should ask Phil. Was that written about someone called Sue? I think possibly it was.
What? Do you mean Sue Barker, by any chance?
Who has just been on the sofa. Maybe it was.
That'd be a revelation of the day,
And
wouldn't
she
it?
was talking about...
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Let me help you here. So here we are.
Johanna Konta.
Let's go to the Australian
Yes,
Open this
shall we?
morning. Early hours of this morning. The nation was hoping, weren't we?
Yeah.
We were hoping for a fairy tale ending. But we were watching this morning, weren't we? Angelique Kerber,
yeah.
who she's playing, hugely talented player.
Yeah.
She said some very lovely things after the match.
She did. We were listening together,
Yeah.
weren't we, Charlie? And she said after the match, you know, Johanna played brilliantly well. She's had a fantastic run in this Australian Open. This is someone we're going to be seeing a lot more of in the future. She has a great future ahead of her. And that, I think, is something that Sue has just said. Sue Studio on the sofa.
Where's Phil
Sophia.
Collins, this chap?
Yeah, let's make a song of it. Johanna Konta has just, in fact, thanked fans for their support during the Australian Open. The British #1 lost in the semi-finals this morning. Manchester City are on their way to Wembley after beating Everton 3-1 in the Capital One Cup semi-final last night. Didn't go all of their
I
way.
have a day at work, Sally.
Go on.
I think it's another day in paradise.
Oh, very good.
Been working on that all morning.
Yeah.
I like my
morning.
jokes. I laugh at them myself. And that pleases me.
I wonder what Phil's going to make of that.
Do you know, if it's good enough for Tim Peake uses Phil Collins lyrics to describe great moments.
Wow.
He did for his spacewalk. He did, tweeted about it. We'll find out. in a bit. Exactly
Okay.
what he said. So if
Might
it's good
stay
enough for
and
Tim Peake...
Shall we big him up now, then?
Yeah, let's do it.
So he's the drummer who became the front man and racked up 7 Grammys, star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, even an Oscar along the way.
Do you know, Phil Collins is just one of 3 recording artists, alongside Paul McCartney and Michael Jackson, who've sold more than 100 million albums as both a solo artist and as part of a band.
Now 2 of his solo albums are being reissued. We're speaking to him in just a moment. First, let's remind ourselves of some of his biggest hits.